Today, we are joined by someone who isn't just predicting the future go-to-market, like he's engineering it. Jordan Crawford is the founder of Blueprint GTM. Is one of the most renowned go-to-market engineers. I promise you, you have seen him in the LinkedIn community. Always, maybe stirring a little bit of shit. I'll just call it out, but I love it that you do.
That's my goal. Like Jordan Crawford, the guy you don't want commenting on your LinkedIn post. That's the goal.
But Jordan, man, like honestly, like you have built a reputation by like doing what a lot of people are just talking about, right? How do we create that AI native revenue system that really delivers results? And I also love the way that you approach it from a very process mentality. You know, you found the frameworks, I think the FIND methodology, you created the Agent 7 course. I believe there's something soon coming out. Is it Barf AI?
AIbarf.com. I'm the co-founder of the Cannonball too. So every week we will take a company that we don't know and build the full agentic go-to-market for them in an hour. And so we're going to do that on stage in San Francisco, September 18th. If you go to AIbarf.com, it'll direct you to the Luma page, $300 per ticket. And you're going to actually see what the future of go-to-market looks like. I am engineering the future. I like that. I may go, I'm not predicting the future. I'm engineering it. That's a good, it's like, what if the future could be today? Jordan is making that happen. It's like, forget physics. But you're going to see that on stage. So you're going to see us take random brands and actually go vibe with the models, and you're going to see us build data sets, and we're going to pull up Claude code, and Claude's going to go pull the data. We'll probably using ChatGPT agent mode. We generally have like 2 windows open at a time, and you agent do that, and you agent do this. And so you'll see a lot of just utter ridiculousness that will land at actually useful campaigns. And the goal is, in a lot of the work that I do, to get to either a PQS or a PVP, a paying qualified segment, which is who are the customers that are in the exact situation, or who are the prospects that are in the exact situation that they need your product now, based on why past customers bought. And a PVP, a permissionless value prop, is a message so good that a prospect would actually pay to receive it, that it is that valuable. So those are kind of my two frameworks, and it's the single way that you can evaluate any bullshit AI product by looking at the message that it sends. You want to look at an AI SDR. You want to look at just sort of any AI product. If they are responsible for that message, look at that message, and then you instantly don't need to ask any other questions about speeds, feeds, and leads. Get rid of it. Look at that message and say, this sucks. It all sucks. And then, churn.
Man, I actually want to follow up on that real quick, because so 2 things. Are y'all going to be doing random brands, or is there a way for people to be like, hey, man, do my company?
So this is a very interactive thing. So people will, hey, stand up, like ask questions, etc. We are going to be taking House Call Pro as one of the examples, and we're going to be doing roofing as an example. I will say that the PVP framework works really, really well with verticalized SaaS companies because they understand their customers so well, and because they made a choice. So one of my companies that I'm working with does junk. They work with junk companies, and it's funny. They said, yeah, we actually want to filter out commercial trash. I was like, that sounds like my friend Patrick. I'm going to call him commercial trash from now. And so I called him, was like, hey man, you missed my call. You're commercial trash. So, but anyways, these are the companies that really, really understand their customers. They're in regulated industries. And so there's just a lot more public data to work with. Mixmax is a perfect example of where this is like frameworks are so hard, because it's like, who do you sell? It's like, who don't you sell to? It's like, what do you do? Email? Yes, I do email. Okay. And so, usually the CEO will be like, we need more leads. And you're like, what kind of leads? Like anyone that does email. So it's really hard to be, not that Mr. Loft would do that to you, but that's an example of what CEOs generally will say to their marketing and the revenue leaders. And really the best place to begin at companies like that is pick a niche that is underserved. And like, for example, I know that you guys have some good penetration in the SMB space. And so if you look through your data, you find out that there's probably like a lot of plumbers. And it turns out that actually the scheduling function is amazingly useful. And I know that, like, for example, Third Day Rule uses you, which there's like a premier dating app, and you can like click in the emails like, hey, are you wanna? And so they've created this whole workflow engine around Mixmax. And those are the types of use cases that you want to go to market for, where they have been transformative in the business. So you don't want to go after B2B SaaS brands. Actually, I don't think Mixmax is actually like an amazingly good fit for B2B. I guess I shouldn't say on your podcast, but it's a good fit for everyone. Everyone should buy Mixmax. But I bet you that Mixmax, because you have built so many features that can do like workflowy things, can do calendars, etc., that you're going to be better off focusing on an industry where they've built some crazy stuff on top of Mixmax. And then you're going to want to go find people that are in that same situation. And you can just promise way better outcomes to those people because you're reverse engineering the cool stuff that your customers built with the tool and taking those cool ideas to market.
No, it's a great point. And it's a challenge, right? I mean, it's not just about Mixmax, it's the space that we're in. Very competitive space. And I do believe, horizontal SaaS is going to face some challenges.
So many challenges.
Yeah. And I think, like, to your point, for Mixmax, it's something we're constantly questioning, challenging, and trying to figure out where do we go, because
everyone is.
I mean, we have great success in B2B SaaS, and I think where we actually, to your point, where we focus though, and where we know our sweet spot is within the B2B SaaS. We have a great fit for the SMB side, right? And so, like, we know where we play well, we know where we're not trying to go, because we're not trying to go and appease the decision makers who want all the bells and whistles. We want the people who just want simplicity and are wanting to hit their revenue numbers, right? But our second biggest market behind that's professional services. Yeah. And so, like, when I dig into the data, I'm like, B2B SaaS is like there. Like, we get it. We know what that motion is. But, like, I'm now digging into, like, okay, here's the industry. What's the sub-industry? And then what's, like, the niches within that sub-industry? Because the other challenge, and this is what I would recommend any revenue leader who's going through this, is when you start to try to make these vertical pivots, you learn real quick that, we actually don't have the right integrations for that vertical, or they operate differently this way. So, like, you make assumptions that weren't the right assumptions. And so what we try to do is, like, how does our product actually fit in with these other verticals? So, for example, we work with a lot of real estate companies, right? We work with a lot of insurance companies, because insurance agents, real estate agents, like, they still operate in a sales environment. And so they still use it the same way. But it's a great one. It's actually one of our discussion topics today is around, like, the death of horizontal SaaS. So before we jump into it, I want to go back to kind of basic understanding, like, take us through, I'm not going to say go-to-market engineering 101, but a lot of people listening to this probably don't know, or they've been told a different definition. And so for you, like, you've always said you're different from a traditional marketing professional. You are a go-to-market engineer rather than, like, that traditional sales or marketer. For an audience who's not familiar with it, like, what is the distinction between, I think it's more RevOps and go-to-market engineering, but just, like, what is it if someone had no idea what it was when they just first met you?
Great question. I'm going to give you that answer. And then, like a good politician, I'm going to give you a question that you didn't ask. It's like, now that you've asked about healthcare, let me tell you about the transportation system. So I'm going to do that too. So the first thing, what is a go-to-market engineer and why is it different than RevOps? Well, kind of RevOps, and most of the RevOps folks that I have met are kind of serving sales. It's like, sales needs this, implement this in our systems, implement this in our systems. And in many ways, sales is a headless horse. And so it's like, this is the on the ground thing that I do. Can you help me automate the on the ground thing that I do? Go-to-market engineers, they're a much more tactical role. And finally, the organizations have come around to the fact, it's like, we don't know what we need to automate. And AI is, I call it the world's smartest 12-year-old. And so if you say, here you go, here's $500, go wild. Insane things will happen, right? Like, you can't give your 12-year-old $500. Like, there's just insane things will happen, or, like, go off and, you don't want to do this, right? And so the purpose of a go-to-market engineer is to say, what are the types of automations that will bring leverage in the business where we can trust AI that not just work with the people that we have in the roles that they have, but that are actually geared towards outcomes And you might actually find that roles and responsibilities change around the workflow. So this is kind of how I would define a go-to-market engineer, is that they're going to help you define what that strategy looks like, as well as then go figure out what is the path to implement it. Now, the second question that you didn't ask that I'm glad that you asked is really how to think about the core problem that we face in go-to-market. And it's that we're operating on the predictable revenue playbook of the past. And great book, wrong era, right? It's like Newton had some very fantastic things. You shouldn't have to sit under trees to eat apples to learn what he said. Like there's other, Einstein now has modified some of his theories. So we're kind of in that transition phase where we need to break those cycles. Now I'm going to describe what that cycle looks so that you can recognize yourself in it. And then I'm going to give you a new paradigm on how to think about what a go-to-market engineer should do. So tell me if this sounds familiar to you. First, you begin with account selection. And account selection is $10 to $500 million in revenue, 100 to 1,000 employees, internet and technology, right? I just described everyone that's listening. They're like, hey, that's my ICP, right? This is like everything, right? Everyone, this is their ICP. So account selection. And then you write persona level messages. Hey, Jordan, when you wake up in the morning, do you ever think I could be better at email? Mixmax helps you get better at email, right? It's like everyone does that. I'm not picking a Mixmax. This is how everyone writes persona level messages. Then you find contacts. So you use ZoomInfo, you use Apollo, and you're like, if we could just get their emails, it's very easy to do. And then your 21-year-old SDR personalizes that message. So here's what that personalization looks like. Hey, Heath, you wear a hat, I wear a hat. We're basically the same person. I was wondering if you would let me charge your credit card for $500 a month because Mixmax is the greatest platform that was ever created by man. And if we could spend maybe 2 to 8 hours on a call, that'd be fantastic. And we could just... So this is what the message looks like, right? And it's like, well, what if I tell you about what school he went to, or when Mixmax raised money last, or that, oh, I found out he has a map. Maybe he likes maps. I should tell him about maps. Oh my gosh, you ever in Australia? It's right by your ear. Right? It's like useless, right? And then the way that you scale that is you would span the TAM. You use a tool like Outreach or SalesLoft, and you just like pump a bunch of those messages, right? So all of our modern tooling is fitting in this broken ass framework. So if you think about the account selection, what innovation looks like here, and I'm doing air quotes for people listening, innovation, air quotes, it's signals. Oh my gosh, if you could just find when someone was hiring a job, yeah, that'd be great. If you knew they were hiring a revenue orchestration manager, then what you would do is you would go sell the Mixmax because it's revenue orchestration manager, whatever. The problem with that is that the more people buy that, the worse it gets because everyone's using it. And actually, by the way, they're selling that same thing to everyone. It has nothing to do with your product. It's not even anchored on why your customers bought, right? You have no evidence that people bought for that reason. You're just like, sounds cool, I'll just do that. Persona level messages, there are tools like Wincher to be able to go interview existing customers. There are, I think Hyperbound is this company. There's companies where you can like teach people to cold call that persona. I think that's a great use of the technology. You can find contacts. There's tools like Full Enrich, great, fantastic tool. Advisor and Investor, so I'm totally biased, but really fantastic. They will hit 20 different providers. So you can find that there is some innovation happening in that space. The AI SDR is sort of what's happening in the personalization space. And what the AI SDR is really selling you is this is exactly like the broken ass shit you have today, but it's a slightly cheaper. And I will genuinely write better than your 21-year-old SDR. That's what they're saying. They're not saying I'm going to crack your go-to-market. They're not saying I'm going to deliver pipeline for you. Some of them are saying stop hiring humans. And what that is like, look, that cake that you have baked for 20 years tastes like total shit, and we're going to give you that cake at half off. And so it's like, why? Why are we doing that? And so the problem is that we just can't proceed into the next generation if we are holding on to the frameworks of the last generation. So I'm going to pause there before I sort of go into my lens so you can sort of ask questions. Does this seem familiar to you?
No, I'm going to check off what my second question was, which is what's the distinction and why is it crucial for where we're heading? You answered that one already.
Yeah.
No, man, I completely agree with you. I think that, I mean, even at Mixmax, like that's the way that I am looking at it. It's what actually makes me excited to wake up and be a revenue leader. we're back in first, fundamental, first principles thinking, right? It's like what the way we used to, or at least like I'll say this is how I'm approaching it. The way I used to build go-to-market organizations 2 years ago is completely different than how I think about building them now, right? The playbooks, to your point, they don't work. It's one of the problems I have with most of the playbooks. We won't get into it, but I actually created my own that I'm starting to like spread around a little bit. But most of them were built in the 60s and 70s. And again, I think this is what it revolves around. And this is where it's like the cat finally got our tongue in SaaS, or at least in software. One, which is what I love about AI, is it's flipped the SEO game, right? You have to actually answer what your customers are trying to solve. It's not about keywords. The second one is like, you can't bullshit, right? Like we used to be able to use big, smart words on our website. Now we have to speak like a human because now we're selling to the user. The other side behind that is around the playbooks is we have traditionally built sales organizations and revenue organizations to where the buyer came to us. The buyer used to not do all their research. They came to us to actually finalize that education awareness. That has flipped. The buyer does most of the research before they even want to talk to us, but yet we still expect them to meet us on our singular sales journey mentality of qualification, discovery, and then this, versus how do we actually create our operations now to create a more buyer-centric journey.
And I'm going to talk about my new way forward exactly in that lens. So you said something really interesting, which is we expect the buyer to come to us, and we would help them close gaps, right? That's what great selling was always intended. And by the way, that is absolutely still right today, but the bar has just increased. So this is why you see Gartner tanking and G2 tanking, because it's like this will tell you about industries, but ChatGPT can tell you about industries. And this is why you see McKinsey and Bain, their revenues are going up because they're like, we'll do it for you. And don't worry, it's just $87 to $99 million for me to and AI adoption, don't worry. AI adoption, yes. And I always like Bain's motto, which is like results, not PowerPoints or something to... Anyways, so let me walk you through sort of this new lens, and it's exactly what you said. So the first thing that you need to begin is you need to identify your best performing segment. We talked a little bit about this, right? And you talk about ProServe, right? And segment is actually much more specific than ProServe. It might actually be who are the plumbers that are running complicated scheduling with their own internal team to be able to do route selection. I'm just making it up, right? But that's what a segment looks like, right? Who are the people that are going to get the most out of Mixmax? And once you have the segment, then you need to identify what are the data sources. So you don't begin with what the filters are on Zoom Info or Apollo, right? You begin with like, what is the customer? And the question that you can ask yourself to identify this segment is, imagine two customers, one that purchased your product and like barely got value. They passed the bar. They should buy your product, but they didn't get 100x. And then who's the other customer? They got 100x. They took you to town. That's like, oh my gosh, the Mixmax team, we screwed them. We just made so much. We got so much value, and we're paying $50 a month. We're paying $500 a month, but we got $5 million worth of value, and they have no idea. Our whole business is architected around this, and they made it so cheap. So go find that customer and go find a couple of those and interview them and be like, hey, like, what do you know about Mixmax that we don't know? What are you getting out of this thing? What is the value? So you identify the segment. Then you have to identify the data sources to be able to define that segment. And generally, these are 2 to 5 heuristics that imply tension on the account. So you're looking at, and one of those might be rapid expansion growth on the plumber level. So the plumber previously was in just Modesto County, and now they've expanded to counties that are next to Modesto County. I don't know this off the top of my head. But so that would be an example of a tension moment where it's like they just served one county and they have served other counties. But that just is one anchor. The other anchor might actually be, you can tell that they have hired additional plumbers. The first time they're going from Jordan only doing plumbing to now they have 3 certified plumbers. And maybe there is a Modesto certified plumber list because you have to register with the county for it to be a plumber. And ChatGPT will help you find all this. But we'd have never have accessed this before, right? You never would be able to go, and you can build a scraper like like this. So now attention, right? It's plumbers that have added a new jurisdiction that is gigantic that have now hired additional plumbers. And because you now know that, and remember, your segment is having scheduling and route changes, right? So you got segment identification and data sources, right? So we've got the segment that we care about and we got the data. Well, now the next piece is the message. What do I say to them? In my framework, there's two versions of a message. There's a PQS and a PVP. PQS is a pain qualified segment, and which we've just defined, right? Which basically it says, hey Heath, congratulations on expanding your business past Modesto. Now that Randy and Bobby have joined as plumbers, my guess is that because you're driving much further, that you're going to need to make sure that they have the most efficient ways to go to customers, and that there are some customers that, based on the job size, you don't want to schedule. How have you solved that problem in your business? Right? I said nothing about Mixmax. I said nothing about your ability to do complex scheduling, and I'm making some features up. So if you're a plumber, don't necessarily come to Mixmax to hire them. But so like that would be an example where all I'm doing is saying, I think I understand your situation. Are you in this situation? And by the way, then I'm not competing with every other tool, whatever, right? I've niched down just to things that I'm really good at. And if I'm right, it's not like they're in the market for some automation, right? Like they probably aren't. But they're like, yes, this is a problem. Fantastic. So that's a PQS, a pain qualified segment. The other option is a PVP, a permissionless value prop. And it gets to exactly your point of customers coming to you to be able to trust you for that next level insight. Now I'm going to switch companies so you have another example. We did this for a company called Wingwork, and they sell to airplane mechanics. Well, it turns out that every single plane is online. You can get every single plane in the country, 400,000 planes in the country. The other interesting piece of data is that, well, actually, I should start with the segment. I should follow my own framework. So their segment is that they're looking at airplane mechanics that need better documentation, that they need to be documenting their work. And generally, these are mid-market folks that not like United or American Airlines that have whole teams, and also not, Olaf, who owns only 2 planes. So he'll be like, I own 1 plane. Only own 2 planes. And so you're actually trying to find people that have to maintain like relatively large size fleets, not the biggest, not the smallest, right? So that's their kind of their sort of best segment, and where they have challenges in tracking that documentation, et cetera. So the data sources that we found were a list of every plane in the country, so we know all the planes, and also every proposed FAA rule. So the FAA puts out some ungodly number of proposed rules every day or something, every week. At least several rules a week, and they're Byzantine. FAA 1035, and some of them are just update your plane's Google Maps. It's like not crazy. It's something very, very simple. But some of them are, oh, by the way, anyone that owns a Cessna Skynet 127 is going to have to replace both of their engines. And so it's like, oh, wow, those are 2 different types of rules. Well, if you have 100 planes, you're not refreshing the FAA data list it's like, what's the proposed rule? What's the proposed? Now United is, right? United's got a guy that's just, his whole job is to click refresh. He's now using ChatGPT. He's in Barbados. He doesn't have to do any work now. It's great. So, but in the mid-market, they don't have someone do that. So what we did is we blended those 2 data sets, and that meant that I could send a message to you like this. Heath, it seems like you have 127 Skynet 127 Cessna planes. And I don't know if you've seen the FAA proposed rule 102.7, but that means that you're going to have to replace both engines on all of those planes that you own. We estimate that it's going to be about a $1.8 million repair. And what we've done is we prepared a pre-response to the FAA so you can comment on this rule so that you can get them to make this a little bit less stringent while still keeping safety standards. And also, you should know that prices are X, Y, or Z to go get these planes repaired right now before this takes into effect. Right. So I've actually generated a message that is independently valuable. I've said nothing about Wingwork. I've said nothing about what the product, and by the way, this does relate to the product's value prop, but I didn't have to. I've just delivered you actual value. And so that's kind of the value of a PVP. And the last sort of two, so remember the first three: segment identification, data sources. We got message creation, and the last two pieces are channel reformatting. So AI can make it into a cold call, and AI is amazing at this, right? You take that message, turn it into a cold call, turn it into a LinkedIn message, turn it into an ad. Which, by the way, in tools like Clay, you can actually go find hashed ad IDs, which is just how Meta and LinkedIn can match you on these ad platforms. So I can send you that $1 million plane repair thing as an ad. And the way that you scale, the sort of fifth piece here, the way that you scale and repeat is you go identify another segment. And so things like TAM scoring become a little bit less important here. You don't need to go say, how do I send a message? No matter who they are, I want to send the same message to. So this is kind of the framework that I apply in all of my engagements and how I think about the future of go-to-market engineering.
Dude, that was so packed right there and so powerful.
So I know it's like going on for about 80 minutes. Like, is this a podcast or a monologue?
No, it was awesome because one, I love the approach to it because I agree with the segment, and you make a really good point. Is we're at this intersection where, like, when I talk about ICP is all the firmographic data. That's all the data that we can publicly get available. But then to your point is, like, when we're actually talking about who our ICP is, it's around those personas. So it's like one that I tell all of my reps is like, we are in a world where personalization, not personalization, matters.
Whoa. That's crazy. I've never heard that. I'm kind of a little bit anti-persona as a general matter. I mean, I think it's a useful heuristic, but I do think that what's more important is that you get the company situation right. And
yes.
If you get the company situation right and you know who owns that problem, that's all you need. So I was sitting with a customer the other day, and I like have taken on these customers that basically have never done outbound before, which is like a whole different beast. And I'm learning so many things. They're like, so should I send a paragraph of text? I was like, don't do that. So it's really bad. I put them in that situation because I gave them a Claude artifact that had literally a paragraph of text. I was like, oh, I won't.
Yep.
Why am I going to fix that? It's like, this is good enough. And they're like, I did the paragraph of text. I was like, oh no, don't do that. So, but the thing is that if you know the segment, you know the problem. And if you know the problem, you don't need any personalization. You just need to know who owns that problem. And so if they own that problem and you perfectly describe that problem to them and they're like, meh, it's like, okay, well, I don't need to talk about what my product does at all. It means that I don't understand your situation. I don't understand the problem that you're in. So how can I possibly even talk about my product if I don't know that you're in that situation? And when I say you're in that situation, I really mean your company. That you happen to own that bag at your company. But if I can't describe your product, I don't deserve to tell you how my product fits within your problem because I didn't even get your problem right.
Yeah.
And so that's the key thing. And this is exactly goes back to your point about understanding and guiding the customer, is that I can't guide you to my solution if I can't credibly talk about alternatives to my solution. And I can't talk about alternatives if I don't understand the situation that you're in. And so this is why if I begin with the situation and know that you own the problem, I don't have to do much more than that.
I completely agree. And I think it's interesting because just like in our conversation, like, I feel like the definition of personas is evolving because, to your point, when I talk about a definition, so the way that we've actually done it, and I feel like this is actually starting to allow us to run more of these playbooks, is I have 3 verticals of, I'll call them, like, I don't even know what we want to call them, like cohorts, personas. But like vertical 1s are users. Vertical 2 is going to be like your champions, which we know is usually middle management. And then vertical 3 is going to be like, who's the ultimate buyer? Mm-hmm. Within those verticals is we've pinned down what we have as 3 personas. So like we have the overwhelmed rep, or we have the manager who's dealing with these problems.
Is this for like complex enterprise sales? Like these like 6-figure ticket sizes?
No. So this is more for automated, right? It's to your point. Okay. I'm not sending out messaging that is just like, oh, hey, this is what we do. So I have what I call the SMART framework, which is show me you understand me, which is like, show me you understand my problem, right? Map the facts, acknowledge the cracks, reveal the impact. And it's exactly to your point, is like, if you get my attention, it's not that we went to the same school. When you
Yeah.
get my attention, it's like, so I'll give you a great example is one of them that we do is we will scrape and see if they're hiring more than 3 reps and they're also hiring for a RevOps manager. That's a clear sign that like they're scaling, but they also haven't put the infrastructure in place.
Yeah. And it's funny. I actually, I think that those days will be gone sooner rather than later because
Okay.
and yeah, let me I know it's a hot take. Like I
I
don't
love
think
it.
what you're doing is wrong necessarily, but also it does not necessarily blend anything that is unique to Mixmax. There's no reason that Lemless, there's no reason that Smart Lead, or I shouldn't mention your competitors on a podcast. How rude am I? Jesus, I'm going to stop right there. Edit that out. But like there's no reason that that worse competitors than Mixmax can't use that, and so you actually really need to be able to blend in some insight that you have. And a perfect example of this that I really have always wanted you guys to do this is like you can credibly claim to prevent bounces because you're like we have all of the emails that have actually been sent. We've got millions and millions of emails. So before you even send a bounce, we will remove it, which will mean it'll protect your inboxes, right? And so what you could do is you could actually look at who are the people that are on blacklist, right? And this is a message that you could then say to like, hey, you have these, you've been landing on these blacklists. And by the way, unlike any of our competitors, we don't ever send a bounce message if we've ever sent it to basically the entire network can bounce once. And so that would be an example where the targeting leads you to a message that none of your competitors can replicate that is tied into actual value that people have got. And so this is why I don't like signals, is that signals, even if you think about it as a combinatory thing, they don't actually tie into your product. And so those two things, in the best case, have to be so intertwined that your competitor could like they can't credibly send that same message because it doesn't actually tie into it ties into your differentiation, right?
That makes complete sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like, so one, I love that you're challenging it because two, I agree with you. Just like I said earlier, right? Is like the landscape is changing, and so I think even things that work today are going to be obsolete in the next couple of years. Like, there's one thing my wife will make fun of me because she asks me a lot. She's like, "Are you working in bed?" And I'm like, "No, I'm taking this class or I'm reading this book," because like I am in such an absorbed mode because everything is just flipped on its head.
Well, yes.
And
I want to take a moment to compliment you to make up for me mentioning competitors on your podcast. So one of the things that you said that you did is like, oh, I was playing around with Lovable and I was trying Cursor and I'm like, have you tried this new tool? And I saw a really great post online that said that we are moving from a world of hierarchy to a world of nodes, and the thing is that you used to have to command a team to get Salesforce updated. It'd take 156 people. They would all have to work together. They put themselves in a closed door room, and they'd have to figure out exactly how to get to like close the deal from like closed won to closed lost. And so, but now a leader could vibe code something in 4 hours and 3 hours and 59 seconds. It will work terribly, and you'll never think that there's an end. And then the last second, you're like, holy shit. But that's now you can do that. And the thing is that if you are far away from customers, if you don't know the raw materials about what they're saying, about the problems, you don't know how to re-architect the world. And you need to first understand, the best leaders are doing cold calls. They're talking to customers. And if you do that, and also you're playing around with these latest tools, you can understand how you need to rearrange all of the pieces. And if you're not playing around with the tools, you don't really know what's possible. And if you don't talk with customers, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't even know what to automate. And so this is a dangerous combination. And I'm ridiculously excited to start seeing a lot of C-suite just be totally canned. Because all these layoffs, like these, poor people, like I got kids or something. And it's like, so I want to see on LinkedIn, it's like, I lost my $500,000 a year job because I wasn't playing around with AI. Like, it's like, we're great, right? Like that's what needs to happen. And these are the folks that these are the axes going to come for those folks because they aren't messing around with stuff. And this is the time to be toying around, to be playing, to be learning. And so you're absolutely doing the right thing.
Well, I appreciate that, right? And you hit the most important one even before that is, and I believe this, everything comes down to understanding your ICP.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple, right? And like, I've been posting about it recently because so many things are changing. We're also launching a lot of new products. And so I want to be very close to like understanding. But I'll use a great example that happened today is we actually lost the deal because of a lack of an integration. But then when I go and listen to the phone call was all around like they brought in this new go-to-market engineer and here's how they're changing their tech stack. And immediately I reached out to the CRO and I was like, hey man, can I just get 30 minutes with you? Because we're seeing a lot talk about it, very few act on it. And so to your point, like I also want to understand like what does that new profile of that CRO who's already doing this like actually look like? Because it's going to be different than the traditional CRO.
Well, okay. Actually, let me talk to you about two types of CROs. I also think that you are in a hard position because companies that are in B2B vertical SaaS, because their leadership generally hasn't said, we're going after plumbers, right? Like they want to be everything to everyone. And so it is so much harder because you have much, much more noise to filter out. And generally also, this means that you're at a much higher risk to get fired because you go try something in some vertical and they're like, well, that failed. Well, because Heath picked we should go after everyone. Why did he pick? And so usually, fortunately, you've got good leadership, but generally, this is really, really hard because non-revenue leaders that are in this situation, their CEOs like, we can help everyone, and I want you to go after everyone. And this is why vertical SaaS is just so much better because it's like if you're selling to plumbers, you don't wake up tomorrow and you're like, we should sell with B2B SaaS too. They can track their pipes. It's like, no, we sell to the Mario Brothers, and the Mario Brothers they have the same problem, as the Luigi Brothers. So like that's the kind of important thing. Now you asked the question about the CRO. There are two like types of CROs that we'll encounter. The first type is really tool obsessed. And they'll be like, I was told to buy this tool. Everyone's buying this tool. Go do it. And that CRO is the CRO that I talked about that's going to get fired because sorry, most of the people that I talk to. But the problem is that they're not living in the world. They're not talking to their customers. They don't know what they want to automate, right? They bought a tool because they were told to buy a tool. And actually, Clay's go-to-market is really good here because what they do is when that type of thing happens, and I think a good chunk of their sales are this, they're like, let's sit down and actually create an automation that will work for you. And there's so much bad things that happen. They're like, why don't we just update the LinkedIn profiles in your CRM? Will that be useful? Yes. Will that transform your go-to-market? No. Is it useful? Yes, it's useful. And so Clay basically solves this not by saying, hey, you need to think about this deeper. They're like, let us get our hooks in you. Let us start providing value as soon as possible. But those CROs are not going to get the 10x, 100x that true automation can provide them. So that's sort of a type 1 CRO. These people are not playing the models. They aren't vibe coding. They haven't really ever talked to the customer. They don't really understand their problems, but they were told to get this tool. And especially the hot tools like Clay are doing a good job of like trying to help them move into that new world. But the best CROs, the sort of Kyle Nortons of the world, these are the folks that are building data sets, unique data sets. They're scraping the public web. They're structuring that data just for them. They're exposing some of that data to customers because they serve restaurants. So Kyle Norton's not going to wake up in the morning and his CEO's like, I got a great idea. What if we served airplane mechanics? It's like, holy shit. And that's your job every day, right? It's like, who needs email? Everyone needs email. And so it's just much easier for Kyle Norton to double down on data, to be the best at restaurant marketing, because a restaurant in Tuscaloosa and a restaurant in San Francisco, the only difference is that the latte is $100 more. And so everything else is the same. And so those leaders have just a much easier time because they can burrow down in these areas, and they will eat your lunch if you're a horizontal program, because they can invest in the data, in the systems, etc. And the tools will only allow them to do it easier, but they can't know what to build if they don't know their customers, and they can't know what's possible if they don't play around with the tools.
You're so right, man. It's a blessing, and it also brings frustration on my end from the scars, just because I came from a very vertical focused
Nice.
background. I mean, Uber Eats, right? That's all we did was restaurants. But it's funny because I now think about it, where all the manual things we did to actually understand the data to actually be able to go after it. So, for example, one thing that I would say was like my first, I would say this is probably like the first time I actually like released something that was anything related to signals. But basically, what we did is we built a data set that when we were wanting to go after a certain market. So let's say that I want to go and penetrate one of the neighborhoods in San Francisco. Is we would cross pollinate the data based off of customer reviews and then also request. So if we notice that there was big demand of a certain cuisine, but then we noticed there was a big gap in that area, cool, here's a spiff team. Let's go after and go close that cuisine, right?
Yeah. I mean,
but like that was unheard of back then, which is why the frustration, because I'm like, damn, if I had Clay back then, could have moved so much faster.
You're exactly right. And actually, B2C is spectacular at this. I was having dinner the other night with like a legit CEO in B2C, and he was saying, "Oh, we were." I like really spent a lot of time with the data to look at purchases, etc. And he's like, this has only happened like 5 times in my career, but I found out that like I was looking at people that were rage clicking and like the checkout button. And so what I did is I reverse engineered those flows. And it turns out if you had bought before and you had typed in your email address, but you didn't use it to sign in, use it as like a new customer, you would get into this endless loop where you couldn't reset your password, you couldn't check out. Like, so your most loyal customers that like, came back, but they didn't remember to sign. They just like, you're just clicking things. Like, I don't know, the way that I don't internet is like, I'm click. It's like, whatever, man, I'll just click through it. So they got into this state where they just were like, bye. And they're like, screw it. I'm out of here. And they could not get themselves out of that. So he found some crazy bug where like revenue went up 10% overnight, just some crazy thing, right? And you can do that in B2C. In B2B, because we're talking about larger dollar volumes and usually less data, you can't just go diving in the data usually. You actually have to have qualitative understanding of the customer. Then you have to go invent some new data sets and blend all that together. It's just a different way to work. And horizontal SaaS companies, go-to-market leaders, like God bless them, they have the hardest time because knowing where to focus is 99% of the value, and getting the organization to be like, here are all of the people that we won't go after. And by the way, that has implication for product, for what you build. Like Mixmax could do so much more in revenue. What I mean, maybe you can't. Maybe you're already doing the best. I should say that. There's no way you could do it anymore. But like if it's like the whole product, the entire team was like email for plumbers, like you'd start to build all these features, all these tools that would just be unbelievably valuable for that segment. And that's the hard thing, is that really the organization, and I should tell you, a company that does chat, and they have a horizontal tool. They 3x their revenue over the course of a year by verticalizing their team. So the people that took the calls for automotive, they did not take the B2B SaaS calls. So it's like, Heath, your job is to know Mixmax for automotive, and that's it. That's all you have to do. And so I think if you are a horizontal brand, the solution here is to verticalize your go-to-market, verticalize your product, verticalize every piece, so that if someone's building a scheduling feature, it's just for plumbers.
I completely agree with that, man. It's the double-edged sword based off of like the maturity, right, of an organization. Because that's totally, the one thing is like, I will wait to verticalize my team once I've actually like built it to where like this is a repeatable engine, right? If not, you're trying to boil the ocean. But I mean, I'll be transparent too, right? I mean, you make a great point, because I mean, even I'll use Mixmax when you're like, oh, you're probably doing the best. It's like, no, we actually have a lot more of untapped potential, because we made, and this is to your point where I think most organizations fail. And one thing I'm grateful about our executive team here is we made the decision. Like, we knew where we were winning. Inbound is our primary driver. and we were just being highly inefficient with outbound. So I was like, cool, let's kill outbound for now. Let's just get our inbound machine fully tuned in.
God, yes.
We're a
Do
PLG
less,
organization.
better. Yeah.
I was like, why
Yes.
don't we go focus on our product channel? And I was like, let's untap those two. Then let's go figure out how to make outbound work. Hence, that's why I'm like, yo, Jordan, let's have a conversation later, because that's exactly what our focus was. And now we can go and make bigger bets because the core foundation of our business is rocking and rolling to where we can have the ability to go and do it. Where I think most people, to your point, they're treating everything like a silver bullet. Oh, AI will solve that. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Right? You're still going to run into the same problems.
Well, and I think actually what you said is really great, is that you made a tactical decision to abandon something because the opportunity cost of solving it now was way too high. Mm-hmm. You're like, look, we have all of this. And if you think about Mixmax's best channel is every email that everyone sends as Mixmax. Like, it's just a great growth loop. And so if you can imagine, if you built a feature, or even if you thought about your sales team, is like, how do we make the customer's email recipient so much more successful? And that's the embedded scheduling links. That's the just all the rich email stuff that you can do. And so if we make that's essentially word of mouth is what that is. And so you have an opportunity to go say, okay, great. Well, what does optimizing that look like? And how do we use our scale against our competitors? Right. And that is, there's for sure so much opportunities. And by the way, all the stuff that I'm talking about is like mostly for outbound. There's plenty of opportunities to grab value by extracting your scale and your size that are a lot dumber than what I've been talking about, but they will print revenue. And so it's like, what I'm talking about is the edge of the edge with AI, and like, how do you like create this outbound engine? But there's totally a world where like, Heath, you wake up and like, what if we just put a link there? Like, a link, shit. And you're like, yeah, dude, I just added $100,000 in revenue this month because I added a link. Like, go do that. Add the link. Like, don't do all this crazy, what if I did AI? And like, you don't need any of that stuff. Like, add the link, do that.
It's funny you say that, because I was actually thinking about that, because maybe it is more of like where we're focused on the horizontal side, but we made simple changes, as for example, like we reduced the number of packages that you could choose from.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Lifted 25%, right? There's other simple things where it was like, hey, we have a lot of call to action buttons that just says request demo, but we're actually getting bad demo requests. We're getting people who just want to see the demo who aren't actually like ICP. So it's like number two problems. How do we filter? But then problem number two, which we tested, was like, well, what's the difference between talk to sales and request demo? It's crazy how the difference in just a couple things on like simple language change will actually drive drastic results. So I agree with you, where it's not even just about like this one channel. I think in general, this whole conversation, even though it's been focused on go to market, what I also look at is just like back to what we started this conversation, is like, you can rethink everything because the journey has completely changed, and we have to rethink the way that we approach our customers from that.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. And
sorry, go ahead.
No, I just was going to say, like, you're in kind of an interesting approach where growth loops probably are your best thing that you should focus on. It's like, okay, great. How do I make that better? And how do I think about the customer experience? And so it's like, if Mixmax has 10 customers, you have 100,000 recipients of those 10 customers that bleed down the chain, right? And so it's like, you just are already working with a gigantic distribution channel. You just need to say like, well, what is the opportunity for me to stop the recipient in its tracks and be like, oh my gosh, you can do that? And so if you can create those sort of delightful experiences and capitalize on them, like, sales doesn't have to do all that work. And so you're in a kind of it's a beautifully difficult position, but it's beautiful because you actually already have the demand, you have the eyeballs. You just need to figure out how do I monetize those eyeballs? How do I get those recipients?
It's all about building the engine, which is what I love. It's why I love the space. It's why I also love the SMB mid-market space. I've done enterprise. I don't like enterprise. It's just pipeline management. For me, I'm like, I want to build the engine.
Yeah,
No
enterprise.
disrespect, enterprise leaders, or respect what you'll do. That's just a personal choice.
I just don't own. I mean, the problem is I don't own a suit and I can't play golf, so it's like I'll never be able to sell to those folks.
I
Like,
just don't want to manage a deal that takes longer than 6 months.
oh yeah. It's like we have to contact the CFO's CPO, the DO, and the LMO, and then we have to see the ACH and the BABL. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are those acronyms?
Well, man, I want to bring this back though, because with the outbound thing, this is where there's plenty of other opportunities, and there's a couple of things I've been playing with that we can take offline. But you've coined the term agentic GTM, right? And so for people that are listening, they're like, okay, you have my attention, but like, what is an agentic GTM system? Like, what does it actually look like? What are the components? Like, what makes it different from like your traditional tech stack?
Well, the real key here is that there's two things that I'll say is that ideally for companies that are pre-PMF, you need to eat your vegetables and do stuff manually. And if it doesn't work manually, like it's not going to work at scale. So thinking like I got a friend that we hang out like an ungodly amount because he's in the neighborhood and he's doing a startup that washes dishes. And so like, oh my gosh, amazing. I love this. So he started selling to restaurants. And he had this model where he has a robot arm that will like go and pick up and move the dishes. And so, but for restaurants to capitalize on that value, they kind of have to he will go in a fractional time model where he'll labor share, because you can't just put the robot in, like it has to work with, they have to be able to unlock the value. And to unlock the value, you basically have to fire someone. You have to fire your dishwasher, and I'll come in at a lower rate than you'd pay them, and I'll just own the dishes. I'll own the dish pit. So you're actually buying dishes. You're buying clean dishes. You're not buying, I'm chopping the thing, I'm cleaning the bathroom. It's like you're just buying clean dishes from me and at a cheaper rate than your full-time dishwasher. And you know what? We did get people to apply. He got amazing meetings. And it was like, but to explain it to someone was like, well, it's like people, but it's like also this and it's this. And it's like, and do you have this problem? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I have $160,000 of dishwashers, but like, I'm not in this market. So they still work here, but they don't like, yeah, they work here. And so it's like, oh shit. I was like, try a different market. And so it turns out there are these things called dish hubs. There's 50 of them, 100 of them in the country. And if you've ever been to a stadium, they wash all those plastic cups from the stadium. And they have a QC process, and the business is booming. It's doing great. And so we kind of stumbled upon this, and I was like, go send this message. Just literally describe what you do, which is a terrible sales approach. You should never do that. But turns out no one, so he's like, we've got this robotic arm that looks at clear plastic cups and determines if they're dirty. Do you want to have a conversation? He just described a feature set, which would be insane in B2B SaaS. You would never do that for Mixmax. But people are like, can we get on the phone now? All of his meetings went from 30 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. He was just selling the robot. There's a complicated labor. It's like the robot does this exact thing. And so higher ACVs, really, really easy to sell, the super receptive market. So you need to go determine markets if you're sort of early stage. But once you're not early stage, once you have found something that works, what you need to do is you need to re-architect the best quality message and architect that backwards. Now, what I say is imagine that your entire team, everyone on your team had a week of all of their labor to write one perfect message, even to a customer that is already closed, where you have perfect insider baseball. What would you do? What would you say? What would you have your product team do? What data would you pull? How would you, and what Mixmax might do is like, well, it might look at every email that you've ever sent to anyone that didn't ever schedule on your calendar. So it's like, oh, hey, Jordan, we've looked at all of your sales emails and we've realized here are the sales emails that no one ever responded to. If you embed your calendar, we see a 40% lift. That'll improve your pipeline. You might do something like that, right? And so it becomes a different question, right? And so once you sort of do that, then you can reverse engineer the process to do that at scale. But we have this amazing technology that will either do beautiful things for us or it will shit on our customers at scale. And it's usually binary here. But you really need to be able to reverse engineer from that place, from that idea of unlimited time to write and scale amazing messages And then you figure out what are the systems I need to make that happen. But you have to come up with that at low scale first. You have to, and you can do this just with ChatGPT or Claude. MCP servers can connect up to your Looker database or your Snowflake database and help you think through that. And then together you're like, yes, if we could only structure this message, then you can figure out what are the ways that we need to reverse engineer. And Charlie Munger said it best, invert. And so begin with the best possible thing you could do with unlimited intelligence and then create a system backwards.
Is this where your Find framework comes into play?
Yeah, so Find framework was early days Cannonball, which is focus, investigate, narrate, and deploy. And we kind of generally will use this when we think about how to build these go-to-market engines. So you kind of need to figure out where to focus. What is the area? What is the segment? Right, we talked about segments earlier. You need to kind of investigate all the data sets. And the narrate piece basically is PQS or PVP, and then sort of deploy is how you go about doing that. So the Find methodology was early days. Cannonball is like 6 months old, and it is a top 50 business Substack because we try to make those things as actionable as possible. But yeah, that's the idea, is that if you follow the process, you're going to investigate what are those verticals that you can provide just a ton of value.
Man, I appreciate that. And so I love that approach. And it's funny, and the reason I say that as I reflect and listen to you is it makes so much logical sense, but yet we've never done that from a technical perspective. But as I reflect on how I actually train my sales organizations, that's exactly how I train them.
Sure.
Because I'm like, first, before we can help people, we have to actually understand their business, which to your point is understand your current situation, your current environment. And then it's about, well, what does good look like? And then how do you actually kind of work back from there? Like, it's the most simplest question, but I ask this to every customer I ever talk to. And I go, if you could wave a magic wand, what would this look like? And then from there, I can figure out, okay, well, how can I help you build that magic wand? And we just need to rethink that from a tech stack perspective or just a go-to-market approach.
Yeah, and you also have to understand that you now have amazing tools to be able to ask questions and answer questions that you never could before. And so it creates a different sort of burden of responsibility on you, which is, okay, it's not what would you, and this is what the SDR is like, well, if I just research your company, but it's aimless research. And so a better question is like, well, what is the best thing that I could do? It's like, well, I might actually want to know everyone in your organization that has received a Mixmax email and what have they engaged in? And so what you can actually say is you can get on a call and it's like, hey, Jordan, I don't know. And, I don't know if you can do this or if there's privacy. Maybe I'm just like making shit up. So like, I'm not, I'm not a lawyer and don't recommend you take my advice as a lawyer. But let's say that Mixmax had the keys to the castle, and you could say when you got on a call, it said, Jordan, what we've done is like, did you know that Mixmax users have sent 5,468 emails to your organization? And it turns out that of all of the calendar requests that your entire team have got, 86% of them were booked. Are you getting an 86% book rate when you send out calendar invites? I can actually just tell you already, because my customers, you are customers of my customers, whether you know it or not. And you have received these messages, and I can track all the click-through rates and the booking rates. And I can tell you that your team loves Mixmax. You just aren't sending, you're receiving Mixmax. And so that's another level of challenge, which is like, well, how would we use and leverage our data to be able to say, don't trust me, trust your existing organization because I've got the data. And so you just might do things that you would never, it would be insane pre-2020, actually probably pre-2025 to be like, oh, SDR, just write this SQL query. It's like only 300 pages. Every time you come up with, it's like, holy shit, you don't have to do that anymore.
It's so true, man. So if you were, and I know we're almost up on time, because this has been an awesome conversation. And so if you were designing a revenue organization from scratch today with AI at the core from day one, like what would that look like?
Oh boy. I made a post on this a while back. I don't know if it's still relevant, but I think the first thing is that it definitely would involve someone to own customer research and to spend time, and that would be kind of everyone's role, but like to basically do all the like ops of scheduling customers, of talking to them, of making sure that you really are understanding the problems that they have, and how those relate to your product. I would also create, and it's probably some combination of a go-to-market engineer, a database person. There's like a handful of orchestration of like data ingestion orchestration roles. So who's going to build out a Snowflake database of our whole TAM, and who's going to be thinking about the health of that database? So there's probably someone that does that sort of TAM management. There's probably someone that is about orchestration against that TAM. So how do we get this data to our reps, et cetera? So there's probably just an orchestration person. There's probably a go-to-market engineer. I think there is likely a copywriter, a really, really good copywriter. So who is someone that's going to actually help sort of message at scale and massage all of that data into actually relevant messaging? And then, I think that there's probably folks that are responsible for channel testing. So there's like maybe a cold caller there. It's like your job is just to test new segments. You are an adept cold caller where I can give you an automotive company or a dental company. And if I give you enough context, you can be like, hey, Jordan, have you ever thought about how your teeth are not as white as they used to be? So you're good at that. And so I would kind of create an experiments team that their job was to go deploy against new segments. And there might be an experiments ad team, et cetera. And then there'd be part of the team that's like just responsible for the scaled plays. And the singular metric that I would track is how many experiments can we run in a week? And that's the metric that I would run against. And it's like, okay, well, your organization becomes much, much, much different if you can run 100 experiments in a week versus 2. And you may not scale any of those, right? But the ability to run experiments fast is the thing that will make you like a 100x organization.
What do you think's the biggest blocker today preventing companies being able to do that? Is it the data side? Or what do you think?
It's understanding, for sure. It's understanding. They don't know their customers, and they have too many of them that have bought for different reasons, and they don't know them. And so it's a focus problem. It's a focus and understanding problem. And then the other piece is it's an organization problem, that organizations are not aligned in this sort of AI first way where you can ship things at, like, for example, I might have a QA person. I probably would hire a QA person, which is like a lot of this, the speed at which this thing ships, you need a bullshit checker that's going to look at this and be like, hey, I was doing this for a customer, and Claude invented security standards. Like, are you having a problem with the SCM? And they're like, I don't know what SCM is. I'm like, me either. I'm not a security guy. He's like, I don't think it's a thing. It's like, and Claude's like, yeah, it's not a thing. It's like, oh shit, I was just going to send a customer information about their SCM setup, and it probably would have worked, honestly. It's like, yeah, no, I haven't heard about the SCM. It's like, it's a brand new thing. You gotta get on that thing. So like you need someone at the end of the day that's going to look at something before it goes out and just say, like, it's your job that there's just going to be a lot of like AI slop in the process, and figure out where that was entered. And you're going to go back to the process engineer and be like, yo, you need to go check these data sources, and here's where we need QA. So there's probably a human in the loop piece that is, and maybe for a while that person is pushing go on each individual message. They're doing something that's like relatively dumb, but incredibly valuable because they catch all the slop that has got into the process. So this is like probably what it would, I don't know if I answered the question, but.
No, you definitely did. That was super, super helpful, man, because I think the moral of it is completely different. Because if I would have asked you this question 5 years ago, it probably have been very much sales headcount, rev ops.
Yeah.
Right.
More. Yeah.
more headcount. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the goal of that question, is just like, we can rethink of the way we approach it. And I completely agree. I mean, it's actually, it's a topic for another day, because there's so much of why, you do it, you don't do it. But I killed our SDR program, transitioned everybody to full cycle AEs. Yeah. And it's funny because like the 2 roles I'm hiring for right now, the go-to-market engineer and a BI analyst and a data analyst.
Yeah.
Because for that exact reason, I'm like, we got to move faster. And like, when we know the data's tight, we can move at lightning speed.
Yeah. That's exactly
the
right.
Beauty of it.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Man, I know we went for a while, so I hope I didn't make you later after
No,
miss
no, no.
something.
Yeah. So I know some
But
bastard
man,
customer canceled their prospecting call. So I gotta, if I had Mixmax, I could follow up with them. No, I don't know what it is, but it just disappeared. It disappeared on my calendar.
so I wanna wrap it up, and like I want to get tactical for 1 second, right? Because this has been such an informational like session with you, man. So for the revenue leaders that are listening right now and want to move beyond the hype, because I would say I probably went through this for a little bit, where it's like there's so much I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
What would your recommendation be for that person listening?
Yeah. Let me tell you two things. The first thing is that let's think about GPT-4, not even 4.0, which they called it 4.0, but there was 4.0, 4.0 and 4.0, because I guess they have no product marketers who work at OpenAI. There was $1 trillion.
They forgot the .0 the first time. They're like,
Yeah,
just throw it in there.
Yeah, make it tiny, but it's like not a zero, it's like an O. So, but you should call it 4. There's no dot now. So, but GPT-4, just like straight GPT-4, which is released 100 million years ago now, at least, that model is still more powerful than anything that we need. Like we just, it doesn't matter. There's GPT-5 that's come out, and there's thinking mode, and there's deep research, and like, are these tools incrementally useful? Yes. But the single biggest problem with every single model that is released to date is the person using it. It's us. It is the only time, and usually if you think about like a VCR or whatever, no one could reset the 12 o'clock. Like, that's the VCR's fault. The VCR made it really, really hard to change the 12 o'clock, and there was a right path. But the thing is that this is non-deterministic. This is an open box. You can type anything into that box. And by the way, we have found out that if you type more complex things, you get more complex answers. And that complexity breeds complexity breeds complexity. And so don't worry about, should I be trying Manus? What's the latest thing? It's like GPT-5. Should I be using 4? Should I be using 03? It's like, there's really not a lot of tweaks that will make a huge difference. So like, let go of the hype. It doesn't matter, right? Like anything, like any technology, it's about a problem that needs to be solved. It's like, what's the latest car? Should I use a car versus a horse? You should use a car. But like, is the Ford Model T or the Ford Model Q going to be better? Like, doesn't matter. Get in one of those things. It'll be a huge difference from that horse. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the very, very best thing to do. And it's a very demonstrative thing that is very, very simple. Go get all the transcripts of your one recent close one deal. Just one. Paste them all into ChatGPT. Do thinking. So use ChatGPT thinking here, or Claude, and just make sure like the web research button is on. Not that there's a research button. I think maybe there's no web research, but like, just ask it to search the web. So you paste all that in and say, and actually you do want to use ChatGPT thinking for this. And you want to say, can you go find this? Oh, also paste in your website, paste in all the context. If you have any good product marketing docs, just like paste in a bunch of garbage. It's fine. Just put all the relevant garbage in. One account. And then say, can you find any evidence online that this customer was in this situation before they bought my tool? I want you to go do all that investigation and tell me what you have found. And spend an ungodly amount of time. Here, I'll give you the prompt. I'll actually literally give you the prompt that you can copy and paste in this transcript. Everything here is everything I know about this customer, including my transcripts. I've given you my ICP. I work at company X. Now what I want you to do is I want you to find any direct sign or indirect sign that this customer had the problem that they talk about in this call. And I want you to spend just an ungodly amount of time searching every part of the web. My job is on the line. I won't have a job tomorrow if I don't get this done, but I want you to spend at least 10 minutes going through this for me. And I want you to sum up the hypotheses and give me everything that I would need, including links, the evidence that you found, and also an evaluation about how likely this is to relate to their problem. And I want you to think like a CRO and like my customer here, who is a title, and they are actively struggling with X, Y, or Z. Now go do this research. So that's what the prompt looks like. And do that for 10 customers. And you'll start to find some really interesting stuff. Well, they recently let go of their CRO. And also they had published online about how much time they spent fixing on deliverability in their blog. And in their recent job descriptions, they talk about X, Y, or Z. And it turns out actually they got an FCC fine for sending too many cold emails with whatever, right? Like you'll just start to find all this rich stuff. And these are the raw ingredients that you should build your scalable go-to-market engine. But you can't know them unless you do this sort of one by one. And you should probably also listen to those calls, because as we talked about earlier, there is a gigantic difference between I'm trying to lose weight and I am trying to lose weight. Like, those are totally different situations. One of them is going to eat one fewer cheeseburger, and the other person is at their wit's end, and they will do anything.
It's funny. I was laughing and smiling because, one, I agree with you. Ever since AI, I have listened to more calls probably than I ever have in my career. And I think part of the reason, and this is actually one of the things I love as a revenue leader, I can move 10 times faster than I used to be able to, because I don't have to spend as much time on the analysis piece. I can actually focus on the strategy. And so, to your point, what drives me to go dig in the data now is I used to have to dig in the data to understand what's happening. Now I can move much faster to understand what's the potential outcome of what's happening. Now let me go dig into the right data to actually listen to the fine details.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's amazing, right? And so I couldn't agree with more with you, man. Like, that's the one recommendation I give. Like, I'm in a network that's just CROs and VPs, and they asked me the other day, they're like, hey, like, what's the one piece of advice you would give? And I was like, first off, like, I'm learning this just as much. But second, I was like, solve problems for yourself first. What are the things in your day-to-day that are mundane that you can use AI? I was like, go play with it, have fun with it. Because what happened for me, at least, is once I built a couple of these, my mind then opened, and I was like, wow, the only limitation is myself. Like, you mentioned it earlier around, like, accepting the fact that we know what we don't know. That's what this unlocked for me. Is I was like, oh my God, like, there's a world of opportunity out there. Like, it's really just my limitations that limits me.
Well, and if you think about this, that language is now code, which is a crazy thing to think about, that before you'd have to have a team and you wouldn't even bother to ask the question, like, oh, my engineering team will never. And so now your imagination is your limitation. And you have to kind of know there are limits to the tools, like where you can't, and I should say the specificity of your imagination is the limitation, which is a different thing. Because if you said more revenue Mixmax now model, give me more revenue, right? It's like, okay. And you can say something like, I need to train my reps better. It's like, well, what does that mean? It's like, I have reps that are making cold calls, and on the third minute of the cold call, they're like diving too much in. They're talking instead of listening. And I want a system to be able to like listen to their calls. And also, if they say any of these words, I want you to immediately send me an email that I need to coach them, right? That's a different thing, right? That is a different thing.
Man, I love it. Like, I have 20,000 more questions, and I feel like we need to
we'll just have to do another session. We'll have to do a P2.
Before we wrap up, man, you're clearly thinking several steps ahead of where most of the market is today. And so I'm just really curious. One, what capabilities in the next 2 years are really going to separate winning revenue organizations from those that get left behind? And then the last one is like, what's your piece of feedback of like, what do you believe is the most important mind shift that revenue leaders need to make for this AI native future?
Well, let's start with the mind shift. Then I'm going to have you ask the second question again. So the mind shift thing, you have to do work. As a revenue leader, you have to call, you have to listen, you have to do work. Your job no longer is orchestrating work. That world is over. There is you have the orchestra in your pocket. It exists. And so what you have to do is you have to understand what is the brass tacks of all of the perfect example of this is you see all these CEOs that are like, we're an AI native. If you're not getting on board AI, get on board AI now. AI, more AI, do AI. What the fuck does that mean? Like, am I supposed to wake up in the morning and like, God damn, I got an AI issue. And so, no, you have to go in and say, I have done the work of I've done the work of every single part of this organization myself. And our biggest opportunities are figuring out from the supply chain, blah, 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 right? Like, you can't just tell people to use ChatGPT. It's a ridiculous request. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, use Hammer. It's like, under what circumstance? I don't know. Swing it around. And so your best thing to do is actually go understand what people are doing and figure out, oh, actually, you know what? A lot of people are doing spreadsheet analysis. They don't have to be doing that. You know, maybe we should make a tool for that. And a lot of people are doing the same thing. And so you really need to go capture context. And so you have the biggest possible responsibility, which is that, unlike in your career where you just could tell people what to do and make sure that Johnny wasn't duplicating work that Sarah was doing, you got to figure out what Johnny and Sarah do. You got to figure out what they're doing that is maybe silly given AI. And you have to start with AI yourself and play around, and you have to get in ChatGPT, etc. And the second thing is you got to go sit down with them. You're not going to organize your organization from the ground up. I should say, you can't do it from the top down. You have to do it from the bottom up. And so that's the first thing. What was the second question?
Second question almost feeds perfectly from the mindset shift. But like, if you look ahead, I would used to say like 5-10 years, but I'm like, look ahead 2 years from now. What is going to separate those winning revenue organizations from those that will get left behind?
It's actually going to be the CROs that can appropriately organize their entire team around what AI can 100x and what it can negative 100x. So you basically are going to need to basically have a red team and a blue team, which is exactly how Anthropic and AI, they have like these red teams that are like trying to break into the model, etc. And so you're going to have to build an organization that's like, the purpose of sort of the light side here is to try to go as fast as possible. And the purpose of the dark side is to find all of the flaws that AI is going to introduce. And so, and I haven't spent any time thinking about this really, but I think that the winning organizations are those that are going to say, now that we have unlimited intelligence and I understand all of the ground jobs that exist to be able to print money in this organization, now how do I completely rearrange it around what AI can 100x for us, and what are the things that I need to make sure that it's not going to make me look like an idiot. And so that's probably figuring out how exactly to turn that. I've not sit in a CR role. I don't know the answer to this question, but I suspect it's like, where are the 100x opportunities such that we don't burn our business down in the ground because we have given the whole reins over to AI.
That's like a mic drop moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know. It's hard to think about and hard to sort of conceptualize. But that's my guess.
Well, man, I really appreciate the time today. I want to make sure and give you one more opportunity to talk about AI Barf.
Great! Yeah,
because I said Barf AI. Yeah. By the way, while we were talking, I just made sure that domain is available. So if it's cheap and because I messed it up.
Wait. Sorry, what is?
I think Barf AI, what I said.
Oh, no, Barf AI. No, so actually, I found out that AI Barf was not available. So we have AI Barfed. So it's the past tense. So AI is already thrown up. That the AI Barf is saying like, this is AI Barf. I'm saying AI has already barfed. This is the past tense. So yeah, let me give I always forget to promote myself, which is thank you for giving me the opportunity. So a couple things. I run a company called Blueprint GTM. It's a fractional go-to-market engineering organization that primarily works with verticalized B2B SaaS brands. And it helps you figure out what is the best possible message that you could send to your next prospect. And we'll go build all the engineering systems to go do that. And by the way, my model works in such a way that you can just buy me for advice and consent. So I have a model where you can buy advice and consent, and then you pay extra for hands-on keyboard. So if you just kind of want me to opine, if you want to have an hour-long podcast just every week with me, you can purchase that. So that's sort of Blueprint GTM. Jokes are included. Unfortunately, you cannot remove them. And on the second side, Cannonball Go-to-Market. So we will, every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, we will take a random brand that we pick from a hat and do a bunch of go-to-market work for them. And this is probably the most demonstrable live Substack that you'll ever experience, where we try to be as hands-on as possible. And we're going to be even more demonstrable in the future. We're going to be like building AI agents. We actually we will export tools from all the stuff that we do that you can then go deploy. And the live version of Cannonball is AI Barfed, aibarf.com, September 18th in San Francisco, California. It's at 1 p.m. at the Sonesta Hotel in Union Square, and it's $300. and you will actually see this live. We will give you the tools. You get a Cannonball 6-month Cannonball subscription included. I have recently completed a MOP course, message operation protocol. So how exactly to write messages. It's a 45-minute course that you only get from coming to BARF, and it's in person only. So no. And we will actually show you what AI BARF looks like, and we're going to be live talking to the models. So you will see me live interacting with the models. There's nothing up my sleeves. You'll see us build this live. We literally are not preparing for the brands. Like, this may be a terrible idea, right? All these people pay all this money. We're not. There's like no prep. It's like, hey, we're going to kind of talk about this thing, and we're going to see what the models come up with, and we're just going to follow the framework. So,
dude, that sounds like fun. I actually really respect that. I think we don't do enough hands-on. I think we talk around a lot around like these playbooks and these single solutions where I'm just like, can we just like, let's just dig into it. Right.
Yeah.
So I love that you guys are doing that. I think that's the best way, especially with this whole innovation curve that's happening, is like, just get in there. And I think people being able to watch it will also give people more comfort, right? Like, I'll give this to anybody listening who wants to start just learning. The hack for me, if you own a Peloton, if not, but on my Peloton, I literally will go for runs now and I'll turn on YouTube because I have YouTube on the screen, and I'll just like, oh, like what? Let's watch a, lovable tutorial for the next 30 minutes while I run and burn some calories. Like, that's a win-win. But just seeing it is also what kind of made me more comfortable of like, then just go approach it and go try it.
Yeah. That's the most bougie thing you could have said, by the way.
I know it was, man.
You're just going to drop that down. You're like, oh, I'm a Peloton. It's like, do I have an electric bike? No, I don't have. I have a Peloton. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I could have bought the Chinese knockoff for $300, but I bought.
Okay, go for a run and just hold your YouTube
on. Just get one of those, like, for $10 you can get one of those straps over your head that'll hold your phone right here. Just like,
why do I see my brother right now running around with his Meta glasses on?
Oh yeah. That's the bougie version. You're like,
Well, hey, for our listeners, like, if this conversation changed how you think about AI and go to market, good. Because that was the goal of this. This show is brought to you by Mixmax. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with your revenue team. Until next time, keep engineering your go-to-market for the AI era. Appreciate your time today, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.